Hello and welcome to Leashed Dads podcast. I'm Jared.
I'm Justin.
We are two leashed dads that get together to discuss our everyday life while chained to our parental responsibilities. And tonight we have another ranking episode,
Whoop, whoop.
a little bit more of a sentimental life lesson check-in. Life lessons and or skills we learned from our father.
This is interesting. Very interesting topic. Well, more or less ranking. Um,
Top five.
Top
Lessons
five,
or
yes.
skills.
We're talking about the top five life or skills we have learned, or that we deem to be the most important value to us. So sit back for a doozy one, I guess. Maybe this will help you evaluate your values, or what you deemed worthy from your parents or your fathers,
Yeah.
or even
Feel
mothers,
free to
for that matter.
reminisce. And if you're struggling to see what kind of impact you have on your child and you want to have one of these carry over to your child, by all means, take our father's lessons and make them your own.
Yep. I can't wait to use some of these actually as my own lessons for my children.
Same.
So, yeah, let's talk about it. It'll be interesting to talk about these skills because I've learned to, well, I won't say I learned to procrastinate. I finally got some more decorations up, like Christmas decorations. I got my tree up finally. I never
did get
sent you
that
the pictures.
picture.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
I'm sorry. I have to take pictures yet, but the tree is up. It's beautiful. I actually made the kids decorate it more or less they wanted to. I just did the hard work and brought the tree up from the basement. Yeah. So good times. Good times. Did the stockings. I hung up the stockings and whatnot. And then put some other decorations up. But I have deer
Nice.
sitting out front. I have deer sitting out front in our front, or I guess out in the front yard. They're not plugged in yet, sadly, so they're not necessarily lit up. I just haven't gotten an extension cord out there yet. It is what it is. So at least you can see them during the day. You can kind of see them at night when you drive by. They're just not all light and bushy-tailed, to say the least.
That's all right.
But yeah, so that was kind of a brief. Oh my god, work has been hell for some reason. I feel like I brought this up to Sam the other day, or actually just today. But this morning it felt like my the women on the floor were all moody, or you know, I felt it felt very. There was a lot of tension
Mm-hmm.
for some odd reason. And Sam's like, well, maybe they're on their cycle. I'm like, oh, please don't do that to me. I really hope they're not on the same cycle all of a sudden, because that's going to be Shark Week in hell for, well, I guess it's not going to be that bad anymore since I only have one day left. But today was just interesting, to say the least. This week has been kind of interesting when it comes to work. It just felt kind of stressful. But we got through it. So we got one more day left, or at least I have one more day left. And then I've got a 3-day weekend. Yes.
Awesome.
So for you fathers out there, if you ever want to, if you're in the area, my area, and you want to be a dental assistant, come apply to Dental Associates. I could use more guys on my team, or try to get more guys. Please. Need to level out the estrogen. Bring in some testosterone to level out the estrogen.
Okay.
Two guys, just not enough. Anyways, yeah, so that's kind of my week in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Life lesson, I guess. One life lesson I'm learning. Don't always be surrounded by women. It's not good.
Right.
What about you?
That's the same old, same old. It's just, I don't know. I had a while there where I was able to focus on other things besides what I do for a job. And now it's reverting back to just worrying or just focusing on that because we're still short staffed. We're down a person still, and there's no relief in sight. And I'm just tired. I don't
working
know. I'm
yourself to the
dealing with
bone.
some destructive feelings again. You know, in regards to like not being self-fixing, if that makes any sense. Just kind of saying F it to everything, which is why I'm drinking a beer tonight because I don't really give a shit anymore. Well, at least
He's
right
hit
now I
that.
don't.
Folks,
So
let this be a lesson. All right, let this be a lesson to you. If you know, Jared's been working very hard over the past year or so, a little over a year, to reflect and uh, go towards a positive area, um, unlocking your jarred potential. Um, Shout out to his YouTube channel.
yeah, there's a few more
But
out there.
yeah, so um, your your jarred potential, unlocking your jarred potential there. I think he's kind of he's relapsing into negative habits. Um, I guess I won't call it negative habits. Sorry.
It's more of a neutral thing. I mean, it's not like it was before because that would then that you know I would go to it because I was sad and needing some sort of outlet. Where this is just I want a beer, not because of the way it makes me feel. A, because of the taste, and C, just because I'm tired of being gotta stay squeaky clean, and because who cares? Who cares?
So yeah,
Nobody.
no, you don't have to. You don't
So
have to necessarily stay squeaky
screw it.
clean. I see, but that right there, when you say it that way, like the destructive behavior or the screw it type of
Yeah.
attitude, that sounds more negative. It's got the negative connotation there. Um, the the want versus the need. You don't need the beer. You want the beer. Therefore, you're
Yep.
getting the beer, or you're doing what you want to do. Versus,
Yep.
I need to drink the beer because it makes me feel better. It's washing away all those,
Yes.
that that's how I guess you want to spin it in a different way. Saying again, I want the beer because I like the taste of my IPA. I like the taste of the beer that I'm drinking. Um, and what's one beer going to do to me? Not a whole lot, probably. It's just
No.
gonna you have that want, you have that desire to have at least one beer, and so be it. Whatever. It's not like I can probably heck, like what I shared last week. I started drinking coffee. It's because I didn't necessarily have caffeine, like my caffeine in the house. Um, but I wanted, well, I won't say I wanted to try something new. I tried something new. I like the cappuccinos. I like having that at home type of coffee. Um, it's not something I'm going to make a habit of, though. I'm not going to need it all the time to get me going. Truthfully, I need to stop trying to get too much caffeine in me. Um, just more or less, I want to have that drink uh, because I like, the flavor, having that return of, oh, I'm drinking it because it tastes good. I
Right.
want to have that good solid taste. So no, I'm just thinking it's like you started maybe off on the wrong foot with that whole thing about the destructive side, so it was more negative that's how I thought about it. um, but I get work can still be draining and then causing you to kind of go on that side of, oh fuck it, I don't care anymore,
Yeah.
basically. But that's not really the case. I mean, yes, being down a person sucks. It really hurts. But at the same time, you're still trying to do what you're trying to do. And
Right.
you're also trying not to let it necessarily affect you in a negative way. You're stuck in that neutral position, um, but more leaning towards the negative. I think sometimes neutral isn't always a good thing though either.
No.
But at the same time, it's better. It's still better than a negative or something that really hurts you in that destructive manner. So I think you're doing a
Yeah.
lot better than you probably would be from last year,
Oh,
per
well,
se.
maybe not last year. Maybe about a year and a half to 2 years ago.
Okay,
And
well,
I got to
from when
remember that we've been doing this podcast now for a year. So
yeah, just a little over a year, but at the same time, I'm sitting here thinking you had some pretty bad nights. Like before we started, you were kind of grumpy, right?
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah, but now I'd say it doesn't seem like that's truly you're not there. You're at more
Hmm.
of a neutral standoff, or like yeah, okay, I've had a little bad day. Like I've had a bad day, but I'm still kicking. So I think it's worked out better. We both I think we both improved in some aspects.
Yeah, and it's really just shifting priorities too. I mean, I had a conversation with the boss, well, my wife, sorry, about I was so stressed. I was so just bent out of shape because I thought she expected the house to be relatively spotless when she came home from work at 10 o'clock at night, while I was at home cooking dinner and finishing up work, getting the girl Eleanor's homework, getting them bath when they need it, and doing dishes. I was burnt out and pissed because I didn't have any time for myself,
Right.
let alone trying to fight with the kids to behave and do their thing while I focus on making sure that her needs are met with in regards to chores. And as weird as that may sound, as I've said many times previously, I am a people pleaser. So that's where that comes in. But I had a conversation with her and I said, look, I really think I need to step back. Yes, some things will get done and some things will have to wait because I'm going to shift my priorities to spending time with the kids instead of getting huffed and pissed and angry with them because they're not listening. All they want is attention and someone and a parent to hang out with or something.
Yep.
Let's just say the nights have been a lot better since I've made that switch. I don't know, I don't know if that's what they really needed was attention from their parent or whatever, because obviously it's a shift from growing up with a mom who's always been there at night for dinner to now only there twice a week.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, it's got to be hard on them.
it's a change for your daughters. It's definitely a change, uh, not only for them but for you as well because, um, now again you're kind of the one that's running the show at the house during the night. Um, so I mean, either way you look at it, yes, it's a change. It's hard. We've all got to learn to adapt and make those necessary pivots. And good for you making that pivot to making sure instead of making like a to-do list for yourself, make it more about the children, spending time with them, while still maybe checking it off, going, okay, yes, we did their homework, right? I mean, it's still important for Eleanor to do her homework by all means, or for you to get the dinner done, but at least you're still providing them time, uh, and that attention, like you said. So, kudos to you. Definitely, maybe take that. I'll take that away as well, because sometimes I think we all forget to do that, and I need to make that shift. Oh, by the way, I haven't actually changed out of my uniform yet. I've been in my scrubs all day.
Well,
In my
it
scrubs for
it
12
came.
hours.
It's well, this whole mindset came about after one really struggling night of harsh negativity and just not being the calm, cool, collected parent that I need to be for them, and it just ended up all of us were in tears. So yeah,
Yeah. No, it's never. At least that's an eye-opening moment for you is when all of you are in tears and you're like, "What the hell What do we do to make the necessary changes so it's not happening again and again and again? Not so
right,
it becomes, how do we change our history, right? Because everybody's so worried about history repeating itself. It's like, well, learn from the fucking mistake the first time
exactly.
so you don't repeat it, and then you make history repeat itself, right? Um, but yeah, no, I think that's a good life lesson, even to speak, if anything, what you have learned from yourself or your own experience there. As far as learning from like a parent or like your father, for example, I kind of want to start this off. This does pertain to being at home, okay? Uh, but or doing some shopping around for anything. You've got the houses. You always shop around for houses, right? Comparing apples. This is my number 5, honestly, for lessons or skills to learn from your parent, or it doesn't have to be like a father. We are doing based on fathers, just as we're dads, we probably do like the same sex or same gender. Okay, so I'm talking about shopping around or comparing apples to apples here, right? Very important, so you're getting basically the same pricing. You don't want to. How do I put this?
Do your research before you buy a major
Do your
purchase. Is that
research.
what you're? Yeah.
Again, I say when you're doing like shopping around, doing your research, and I say compare apples to apples. Let's say you're doing windows. Make sure all your windows are the same. Like you have one person come in and do these windows, right? Or they give you an estimate about how much these windows are going to cost. And then you go to somebody else and you tell them, oh, we want different windows. You're not comparing apples to apples at that point. You're now comparing apples to oranges, and you're getting something different. A better example of this, if you do new flooring, okay? We did this in the house at one point. We went to a couple of different places, shopping around, trying to get the best price. But we wanted our stairs that lead up to our bedroom to be carpeted and then wood floor. Okay, we wanted to remove the carpet flooring that we had upstairs, and we turned it into wood. At one point, I believe we actually did not do apples to apples. We did apples to oranges because I think we had somebody quote us that the entire like the stairs and the floor were all wood, where another one did like the floor and like the upstairs floor was wood and the stairs were carpeted. So we weren't necessarily comparing apples to apples, apples to oranges, because with the wood stairs, it's going to cost a little more versus the carpet stairs. So that's my number 5 there, is making sure you do your research. You are doing apples to apples rather than apples to oranges. It's a very good skill, very good life lesson there for everybody, at least in my opinion, because you want to make sure you're giving the right bit, you're giving your money, or I guess you're still doing your due diligence to make sure that you are improving your house or whatever you're doing, and making it fair to yourself and not screwing yourself out of money at that point.
That's great. Yes. I don't think I learned that from. I might have, but I really did it on my own, especially when I met Natalie, because she was the same way, where she did her research before buying any, big product. Sorry, more expensive product. And we had gotten, and myself personally had gotten burned on a few things because we didn't, it was an impulse thing. Sure. And it ended up being crap, and we lost the money. And since those things happened in our life, we've, cars, huge research. Look at everything, folks, when you're buying cars. Test drive it. Most importantly, look at the reliability rating as well as the safety rating. I can't stress that enough. But enough about that. I don't. You said the windows. Look at contractor reviews as well. Product reviews, which we should have done for our vanity in our bathroom, which scratches when you put a feather on it. So
Ouch, that sucks.
Non-scratch my ass.
Yeah, non-scratch my ass. You put a feather on it, it's already scratched. Yeah. What the hell?
You put a feather on it, it's like a gouge of like an inch deep.
Yeah, crazy. Imagine if
and
you
it
put a
was not
diamond
cheap
on it,
either.
what would happen?
Oh, it would fall apart.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
was
sorry.
instant, just disintegrate.
Diamond's too strong.
So no, yeah, that's a good number 5 though. That's a good life lesson for anybody, and
Hmm.
especially if you tell that to somebody in early adulthood where they understand the power of purchasing and buying stuff. Yeah,
Insurance, even like insurance, like auto insurance, home
yes,
insurance, that's huge. And
yep.
you can even speak about that a little bit.
Yeah, if I want to, the main thing you guys need to do is read your policies, and if you need help understanding certain language, Google is your best friend because it gives you the definition and explains stuff pretty nicely. So, yeah, read your auto policies, your home policies, and keep your deductibles in your mind. Like don't have a $5,000 deductible if you only have $1,000 in the bank. So it might save you money, but you're screwed if you have a claim. So
Yeah, because now you're paying $5,000 to basically meet that claim. What about you? What's your number 5?
I have a runner up real quick.
Oh,
And this is something we actually differ on, my father and me, and that is religion. However, his life lesson on faith has stuck with me, and I still use it relative to today. But that's a runner up. My number
okay.
5 is how to be a defensive driver. I learned how to drive from him in multiple different settings, racetrack, in Milwaukee, in the middle of nowhere with like an inch of snow and ice in Mercedes. It was crazy learning how to drive with him. But I definitely learned a lot of good techniques, and I have yet to be at fault for an accident yet. So
It's not like I haven't learned how to be a defensive driver. I've made errors in my ways before. Um, so I've one I one I one accident was my own fault. Or somehow I rolled my car, so nobody else was involved. It was just me. Rolled my car. The other accident was I'll call it like a blind moment on my part. I looked, you know, you always got to look your directions, left, right, right. I did that, but apparently as I was making my left turn, there was another vehicle after what I saw. So, it's like he showed out of basically it was an invisible car that showed up out of nowhere as I made hit. But I was definitely at fault for that one. And that's why you also want to have good insurance too, because
yeah,
I actually ended up getting sued for that one. So make sure you are insured if anything were to happen. No, but I do like that being that defensive driver, being taught that defensive driving. Um, there are a lot of dumbasses out there on the road,
there are.
um, and I'm glad you bring that up too because right now Wisconsin's going like Midwest is going into winter. Like I guess all the northern states are going into winter, and the problem with that is like, yes, it comes around once a year. Everybody should know how to drive in it. Everybody fucking forgets.
Yeah,
I swear to God, people forget how to
it's
drive in
bizarre.
snow.
And I guess the one thing that really has always stuck out in my head, I like driving. I'm a car guy. I relatively
Yeah.
enjoy it. Like I sometimes would just go out for a drive just to go out for a drive because I like driving. And B, you really got to that be your only focus, driving be your only focus
Yep.
while you are on the road. And understand and know your car's limitations in every single weather possible. Like,
Yeah.
for example, so if I'm on the road alone and there's nobody around me and I'm curious as to how slippery it is, I'll slam on the brakes just to see how bad it really is. Or I'll move the wheel just to see how much the tires will slip. So I
Right.
know if I ever get to a position where I have to stop suddenly or I have to turn at a moment's notice. I know exactly how the car is going to react with that type of condition on the road.
Yeah. So for me, like when I know it's getting snowy and icy and everything, I go, okay, yes, you're supposed to do the right thing and start slowing down earlier at stops or like stoplights and everything. Um, but sometimes you can't, right? So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
if you're getting too close and the light just turned, right? I'm just going through it.
Right. Oh,
You got
for
to
sure.
understand. You have to understand your road conditions because if you try to hit your brakes are, and all the cars nowadays have the anti lockup basically.
ABS. Yeah.
So you're not going to stop in time. You are going to stop basically in the middle of that intersection, and you're going to cause an accident. So to be safe, your best bet is probably just to go through. Or be smart, again, and defensive, and start slowing down. Especially if you have like at an intersection where there's a crosswalk. You see that countdown going from like 25 seconds or whatever. If you see that probably below 10 seconds, I would start slowing down.
Yeah.
That's definitely one thing. So I mean, I also have driving on my, I made it number 4 here. So kind of like
Okay.
knowing how to be, how to drive. Um, I didn't necessarily make it like defensive driving, but just driving in general. I had gone through a couple lessons with my father on how to drive. Um, Here's the thing: I don't think having a parent teach you is always the best thing, though. Having somebody else teach you to do it is probably going to be better. That
Yeah.
way, because I know, like, I get they're trying to help you, but sometimes when you have somebody that's not your parent teaching you, you're going to probably be a little more accepting to the criticism that they're providing versus, you have that want to maybe rebel against what your parents are trying to teach you or have like, okay, it's my dad teaching me how to drive. Yes, you still have to take it seriously, but at the same time, you're like, it's just my dad. I still love him, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, he's trying to tell me to do something, and I'm his child, so I'm gonna kind of do, whatever. I mean, to your point though, you still want to, Jared, right? You said take driving seriously. Make sure it's the only thing you're focusing on. Um,
Yep.
I'm not saying by any means that when you're learning to drive from your parent, I just think it's more ideal to learn from somebody else. Because I actually ended up taking, so I drove with him a couple times. I think I drove with my mom once or twice, but then I had one of my mom's friends' dads who used to do like driving lessons or whatever, was like a driver instructor. He actually worked with me on driving and just took me around. So on top, because we were working on trying to get, I think whatever it was when we were in high school, we had to have so many hours of driving behind the wheel aside from the actual like behind the wheel course. So you had like 6
Right.
lessons, like probably like 12 hours. You had to have another like 12 hours or whatever it was. So I was doing that with people that I could drive with. So driving, I definitely think is a huge skill once you hit that age. Um, and again, it's any and all driving, being defensive. Don't be stupid, basically. So that's my number 4 as well.
Awesome. So my number 4 would be listening and being an active listener. So,
Huh?
in
What?
regards to having a conversation with somebody, you list, you make sure that you show that you're listening, type of thing. So, not much more to say on that. Just
So define active listening then.
so you don't just, when somebody's talking, you say, yeah, okay, okay, I understand. Oh, head nod. It, I don't know how to just explain it. I don't know.
I mean, I could still be listening and agree. Yes, yes, yes. Is that
Yeah, so
really
that's
active
active
listening though?
listening. I can see you.
Is
You're
it?
not like on your. You're not texting. You're not reading a book. You're not just staring at me so still. You know, you're active listening. You're doing it.
I mean, they might be able to have a conversation with you. I would count being able to not. Sometimes people just go into this habit though of just being able to talk or just nod. Yes, I don't think I. To me, I don't really count that as active listening, um, because they might not. You may not have their full attention. I would count active listening as having giving somebody your full attention at that point because they're trying to have it. They're trying
Well,
to talk
yeah.
to you, trying to ask you something or do something with you. So if you're not, for example, Jared, I don't know, let's say Jared's distracted right now. One of his kids is waking up. I'm trying to say, hey, Jared, what's your plans for next week? And he's just like, huh? Okay, yeah, yeah. It's like he wasn't really listening to me. He wasn't
What?
being an active listener. Exactly. Um, asshole. But I would count active listening as being attentive. Uh, you understand what I'm saying. You will either agree to it and then maybe take it elsewhere as well. Um, really being able to make sure that conversation is understood and we both have, we're on the same page at that point. That's what active listening is to me. Um, but no, that's just my example. Or if you're in retail or whatever. Or like restaurant,
Either
you're
way.
actively listening for somebody when they're placing their order, for example, because you want to make sure you get their order right. Um, but yeah, so what about so active listening was your number 4. Um,
Four.
what else you
What's your
got?
number three? Do you want me to do three?
Well, I was gonna have you do your number 3.
Okay. Respecting people, respecting property. Kind of thing. You don't.
I've had these thoughts cross my mind too. Like that one thought that crossed my mind. I didn't put it down on my list because I had other things like while I was creating this list. In the beginning I was like, okay, are we doing life lessons or do we do skills? So I did again, as I mentioned earlier, just a kind of a mix of life and skills. I think looking at my list though it's more skill based, but I like your life lessons, like that respect. That's huge, so go ahead, sorry, talk
Yeah.
more about
No. I
that.
mean, he taught me at an early age to respect everybody that you meet. Whether doesn't matter who it is, you show respect to them, and you be kind, courteous. You active listen. You shake their hand. You say how you doing, hello, and have he basically taught me how to have a conversation with anybody, and that actually is another thing on my list. But since we're focusing on respect, active listening falls into that as well. But it was just something that he took me around everywhere when I was with him, because again my parents were divorced, so when I was with him it was his time. He took me everywhere, whether it
Mm,
was hanging out with his friend, his adult friends, and just eating pizza
mm,
and playing games or whatever, or to the racetrack, which he had a bunch of friends there too, and would talk to them, hang out with them and stuff. So it was just I learned a lot,
interesting.
watching them communicate as well as build friendships. So, and then you've
Yeah, no,
also
I
with
think
him.
so.
Go ahead.
Oh no, finish, sorry.
Yeah, and so and also he was a manager at a printing company here in town too, and he had to show respect to all his employees and anybody who walked in the door. Whether it was a homeless person or a mentally challenged person, he still respected the hell out of them. He didn't push him out the door or slander him or nothing. So
I think so. Respect is huge, right? Um, I'm glad you brought that up as a good life lesson as well. Respect everybody. The thing that crossed my mind when we talk about respect is, as a child, you know how we showed respect to elders or people that are older than us, right? Like other parents. you'd call them by their last name. You'd go Mr. whatever or Mrs.
Yes.
Ms. whatever, right? You'd always go by the last name. You'd never call them like by their first name. As we grow up, though, and this is something I've noticed, I'm like, wow. And then I even look at my kids, and they don't even do this anymore, right? So I think it's kind of a dead thing now. Not saying that my kids don't respect other parents, but this is kind of like a dead thing. It's more or less like, oh, this person's mom or whatever. It's not like, oh, last name, Miss whatever. It's like, oh yeah, well, so and so's mom, or I have to, I even call them it. But even now, like, I won't go up to uh, my parents' neighbors that who they're neighbors with forever, right? Um, let's say if I ran into an old neighbor and started talking with them, I wouldn't be calling them uh, by the last name. Like I wouldn't be putting the Mr. or Ms. I'd be calling them by like their first name now. I'm not. I think there's a mentality of respect in that you know grade where it's not like I'm disrespecting them by calling them that. It's just I kind of grew out of that because now I'm an adult as well. So it's kind of in that fairness,
Right.
right? You kind of I think the respect level changes as you get older. As a child, you want to show them more respect by calling them by their last name or their surname, um, or whatever it is, right? So that was the thing when you brought up respect. I'm like, yeah, I remember as a child I'd go Mr. Jatsak, for example, not hey William or hey Bill or whatever, right? It's hey Mr. Jatsak, what's going on? Now there are some adults, that are my age or just younger, slightly younger than me, maybe even older, like you know our generation that may still call the some other adults. Just they kept that term of respect, like um, or level of respect. To me though, it's different. Everybody's different. Um, it's not like my parents didn't teach me properly at all how to respect. It's just we also develop our own ways. Um, my respect for the parents never change. As I get older, it's just feels more natural to start calling them by their first name versus uh, that last name. Um, no, but I'm glad you brought that up because respect is huge. So you kind of give the respect right away, uh, and that's great too because if you don't give respect right away, I don't think you're going to receive it. Now, to me, though, let's say I do, I'm kind of like you. I'll give you my respect, or I will respect you right away. But if you do anything to disrespect that or throw it back at me, it's done. You don't
Yep.
deserve my respect anymore
Yeah.
because why should I continue something if you're not going to give me the time to, you're not going to respect my time either or respect what I'm trying to provide. So, I mean, I get though, I also try to play it by ear. Sometimes people may be having a bad day, right? But if it's like one of those things where it's continuous and it's done, like if it's not, sometimes you write it as a one off. But other times it's like, nah, you're just doing it because you're an ass. Where you are that's your personality. I'm not going to respect it anymore. You lost all my respect at that point.
Yeah. I have the same problem, and learning how to be less negative too, and giving, trying to really understand people, and they might be having a bad day. They might have had a shitty life. They might have had some detrimental emotional blow up that, because I'm dealing with this. I've dealt with this in my career where I've had coworkers that are just nasty. Oh, they are the most negative son of a what out there.
Yeah,
And I'm trying to empathize with them and not cast them off because they're being an asshole to me, because I don't know what they've been through. So I'm still going to respect them, but it's going to go only to a certain point, right? I'm
right.
not going to stick my neck out for them unless they show me that they have the same empathy and respect for me, which they don't. So that ends it.
Right. Agreed. Definitely agree as well. Um, so my number three, talking about number threes there, your respect, that's huge. My number three, I think, is another thing. It does kind of fall in this, it kind of follows suit with my number five, but it's more like the financing and the budgeting.
I still
So,
get that shit today.
right, you can't, yeah, it's a valuable life lesson, because if you're not going to take the time, and this is something that came uh god almost 5 years ago, or over 5 years ago now. Um my my dad at one point told me, it's like, i'm not gonna say he wasn't gonna give us money for our wedding, like, or help provide for it, but he wanted to see what we kind of had going on, um versus, just like, yep, we're just throwing money here, there, and there. He wanted us to have like some sort of budget. I've created, even when before we were getting married and everything, I even created a budget for myself when I first moved in, because I wanted to know where my money was going as well, right? So back in 2015, when Sam and I first really became a thing, she asked me to move in with her. Um, and I kind of like near the end, like September/October. So I'm like, okay, fine. Because she needed help, right? She was losing, well, her her roommates basically. Were getting ready to move out because one needed to go help their, mother, father, family, and the other one just couldn't deal with the fact that her and I were dating, and I was basically over there all the time. So he's like, he was getting out. Um, Granted, him and I are, friends to this day. Um, after that rough period. But point being is, budgeting is huge, because you want to know where you're spending, how much you're spending, um, and if you can even help continue to afford what some of the things you're doing, or maybe you have to eliminate some things so you're not living paycheck to paycheck. Like, there are still a lot of people out there, like I believe nationwide, that are living
Oh
paycheck
yeah.
to paycheck. And I'm not saying people aren't budgeting. It's just the fact that our nation, our jobs, aren't necessarily helping us live to our cost of living. Our wages aren't meeting the cost of living, so you are almost living paycheck to paycheck, whether it be, oh yeah, your paycheck is mostly going to your mortgage or wherever you're living, like your rent. Granted, rent is a lot more than a mortgage sometimes, so it's easier to own something versus renting. um, but I know we always want some sort of luxurious life, so you still got to plan for that. um, we live well off. We're not like well off, but we're not living paycheck to paycheck by any means. We're still able to afford things and do a little extra here and there. But I would say budgeting is huge, because if you don't know where your money's going at what time, you're going to spend more than you think you have, and then you're going to be in the hole, and you're going to be trying to
Yeah.
play catch up. And playing catch up, believe it or not, can be very difficult. Um,
Oh, it's hard.
it's hard. And it kind of hit me just earlier this week. Actually, I got a letter from the wonderful state saying, blah blah blah, you owe this. It's like, great, yeah, I knew this was coming, I want to get this out. So I kind of blew my savings to pay it off, because I'm not going to take an extra $300 or $400 out of my checking account, or wait for my next paycheck to come in. I had the money to send over to the government. So but now I'm going to be working on trying to bring my savings account back up, slowly but surely. So I'm going to probably save here and there, throw some money at each paycheck into that savings account to help build it back up. Um, so that's another thing, I guess, just treating your money with respect as well. And, as Jared's number three, treating your money with respect, budgeting, financing. Don't avoid using credit cards, especially if you know they have a
Yeah.
higher interest rate. um, that can kick you in the ass pretty quick. So just overall, learn finances. learn to finance your life a little bit. That was a great lesson. Um, my dad always used like Quicken to help keep track of his money and stuff.
It's a good
So he
program.
still
Yep.
does that as well. So using those financial programs is great. So that's my number three. I'll talk about this right away then too. Number two, a little shift. But this is where I kind of like last week where we revisited what we revisited and improvements or what we have started doing. But food, cooking. Um, I've grown to love cooking, and it's critical to learn. Well, I won't say critical. I think it's a good thing to learn. That way, you can provide some sort of meal to your family or to yourself that's not necessarily unhealthy all the time. Whereas some people might be going off to fast food joints most of the time not, to get food versus cooking their own meals. So, I'm not saying you have to be like a fancy chef or like be a professional, cook that goes to a restaurant and cooks these meals or anything like that, or always has to make these fine meals, like 3-course meals at home. No, just something other than mac and cheese or like grilled cheese, things like that. You want
Dino
to have
nuggets.
something in your repertoire that or your wheelhouse where you can grill up chicken without burning it, for example, and then all of a sudden ruining your own meal, right? You want to know how to properly cook the chicken or um, what to look for. So I've stood by him while he's cooked on the grill or even cooked in the house, um, and just learned from that. Oh, by the way, cooking comes with instructions as well. If you're doing like, uh, I don't know, hamburger helper, for example, they have instructions. Use the instructions.
Yeah.
Make it's gonna help you if you follow instructions. You're probably gonna be better off than just winging it. So yeah, cooking is another skill that I think can be necessary or something I appreciate or have a high value of from my father.
It's a good one. I learned a mixture of cooking through television, my stepmom, my mom, and my dad, the grill. But even then, I taught him about the same amount that he taught me. So,
It's a give and take at that point.
yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you come up with a recipe or something, for example, from grilling or whatnot that you want to try, and then you can teach him that it works out. Um, but to me, I knew nothing about cooking at first, right? I could probably throw in a mac and cheese or like make mac and cheese, right? Something
Easy
very
Mac.
easy, or make pizza, right? Turn on the oven, turn it on, whatever, throw it in. Uh, but now there's that skill of being able to cut the chicken, cut chicken up or put chicken on a grill, cook it for however long until it's hitting 165, right? Or 160, whatever the temperature was.
It's 165. You're right.
Yeah,
You're right.
165. See, I started second guessing myself. I should know. I worked at McDonald's for 10 years, and no matter what, you had to make sure the chicken was at, every time you switched over from breakfast to lunch, you had to check the temperature of the food for food safety. If it wasn't there, well, guess what? You're discarding it and you're recooking it. So yes,
Yep.
165, 155 for your meats. That's not chicken. Or at least at McDonald's, it was 155 for like your patties. Um, Chicken nuggets had to be at like 200 or something like that. So yeah, look at that. When you're deep frying shit, had to read over like 300 degrees. But yeah, so cooking was a great skill, and I know you said you traded off a little bit here and there. Everybody learns skills. Recipes aren't. I mean, it's still a skill. It's just another thing in the person's arsenal. So, what about you? What is your number two, good sir?
Well, I kind of led into number two with number three, but number two is how to talk with anyone. He was a big
Mm.
follower of this. He was a big follower of Dale Carnegie. For all you boomers out there, if you are listening, he had a thing of CDs and video and cassette tapes, kind of like no, it's kind of like a self-improvement, self-help thing, but it was more of how to talk to anyone and make like sales and relate and make, a good sales career. So he taught me a lot of that
Mm.
stuff.
So being able to speak with people, communicate effectively, would you say?
Yep.
More of
Effective
a
communication.
effective communication.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, the way I see it too, right? Effective communication. You've got the active listening, so that's huge. You've got to have the respect. Um, Honestly, I think one other thing too, it's like having that eye communication, eye to eye contact, right? If using having some sort of acumen too, knowing how you're gonna solve problems. I guess that's kind of just different, tad different, but knowing your audience, right? Or
Yeah,
knowing
that's
who
part
you
of
can.
it. Yep.
Yeah, you got to know your audience. You got to know who you're speaking with. Oh Jesus. Uh, so sorry, something popped up. But no, so knowing your audience. So if Jared and I didn't necessarily know each other, we'd probably talk a little more uh, with respect to each other. Have Our words wouldn't be like, "Hey, you're a dumbass" or anything like that. We definitely wouldn't call each other that. But that's not the case. So we definitely throw those other words out there. Now, granted, he knows I'm joking. He's not really a dumbass, but or is he?
No,
Stay tuned next
we found
time.
we found some common ground during our first conversation. Donkey,
Donkey. God, yeah, that's great. Oh,
Yep.
Jesus. I miss college sometimes. I miss the bar. I miss our bar. But yeah, no,
Me
finding
too.
common
Doesn't
ground.
exist anymore.
I know, but I still miss it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, common ground definitely help with your effective communication. You need to build that common ground, build that relationship. So I definitely agree that it's a very strong number two. You want to start off with the final one, or your most valued, I guess.
Number one, I still use almost every day here, especially since my awakening. Being open mindedness. Sorry, that didn't make any sense. Being open minded and not casting judgments on people so quickly. You may not like something, but who gives a shit? That's you. That's not what they are. Whatever. For example, and this might help my case with my ramblings. Um, I had come to him 14, 13, and I wanted to understand what homosexuality was, right? It was people being jerks in school, saying that's gay, you're gay, kind of thing. You guys know what that means. They were all just being, everything was gay back in the day. It was just
Right.
something we said, and
Something
I
you
was
did, and all of a
confused.
sudden, something you did, all of a sudden is like, or like a teacher's telling you to do something, and then the kids like they don't really want to do it, but they'll be like, "That's so gay."
Yeah,
Like
yeah, for
they were
sure.
using, you know, it was the wrong use of gay because I mean, granted, now there's two different meanings for it, right? The first
Right.
term is happy, I think you're happy about it, or something, it brings joy, but the other one is that homosexuality of the
Yeah.
homosexual
So
nature.
I had questioned him, and he was so straight faced with it, and he actually had a hard time coming up with being comfortable with telling me about it. But he didn't cast any judgment. It wasn't negative. It was straightforward. He might not agree with it, or that might not be his thing. But he didn't lead on to that. He just was matter of fact. Where I know some people would have been, and growing up, I had a family member, not my dad and not my mom, but a family member make fun of me because I listened to certain music that the artist was gay. Because so then they were joking that I met it. It was so stupid because that's the sort of thing that I was talking about with casting judgment. I like the music. I don't give a crap if Freddie Mercury likes dudes or not.
Yep. That's
It
where I
has
thought you were
nothing to
going
do
with.
with the way the music sounds in my head. But yet, this family member was, wow, you should be concerned about your child.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, fuck off. Seriously.
I figured that's where you're going when you said person you listened to and went with Freddie Mercury. I'm like, yep, he went with Queen. Good choice.
Actually, the song that I remember this like it was yesterday. It was I gotten a CD for Christmas. It was an '80s mix of songs, and
Okay.
it was Culture Club, Come a Chameleon with Boy George being the lead singer, and then
Mm.
also George Michael's group Wham. Wake me up before you go.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah. Okay.
it's good stuff.
Well, I mean, but Freddie Mercury is a great, segment for that. It's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
he was gay, he liked men. Awesome. I mean, a lot of people didn't really think about it. I'm pretty sure, if I recall, they didn't really think about it at that time as bad. Um, or, well, no, that's not true. The people weren't as
no,
accepting. Um,
right.
but or some people were, some people weren't, and nowadays everybody's very open about it or open-minded to it. It's just part of culture nowadays. It's not like hidden in the shadows, basically. Where no, it was hidden in the shadows back then. Even when we were still kind of growing up as well, it was still kind of a, oh, yeah, that's a bad thing. You shouldn't be that way.
Yeah,
Um,
and also
so
not being racist too. He's not racist at all. And again, I saw other people's families and maybe some other close knit relatives of mine who are very racist and not shy about saying certain things. It's like, seriously, what is your deal? Like,
right.
why what
I mean,
is
I think
they
I
can't
think
you know
I think at that point though, it's also the time they grew up too, right?
yeah,
Where it was somewhat acceptable. Now there are definitely parents or um, the boomers out there that are, like you said, open minded, and I think it's very critical to be open minded about that stuff. Um, and some people just can't accept it.
I
Can't
know,
accept the
it's
culture, or
sad.
the culture we're in today, the society that we're living.
Yep.
Um, the mixed families, right? And I mean mixed, as in you've got you know an African American father or an African American mother and a white dad or a white mom, right? Um, or even your Latinos with the whites, But guys, you're gonna find who you love.
Right.
You're gonna fall for that person. Now, it's not necessarily always true, right? You may have like a one night stand with somebody, and hell breaks loose. But all for naught.
Regardless.
Yeah. Regardless, you can have a mixed family. It's today it's acceptable, whereas it may not have been acceptable in the past because cultures. Yep, whites are with whites and Latinos are with Latinos and blah blah blah. It's like, no, that's not how it should have never been that way in the first place. But
No,
we
it
all
should not
thought,
have.
because guess what race is? We are humans. Humans, the humans or Homo sapiens
Race.
is the
Yep.
race.
Yep.
We are. My skin is just my color. That
Yep.
is, that doesn't make me. I'm sorry, I just don't get enough sun. That's what it comes down to. We African Americans, they come from a descendant of somebody out in Africa. Well, Africa had a lot of sun, so their skin kind of developed. I mean, it's all kind of part of the science. Um, they're out in the sunlight more often or whatnot, so their genetics changed and evolved so that they're not being burnt all the time.
Yep.
It's not always true, though. Definitely not always true. So they are still the same, same race. They're still human, just like me. So, but that being said, it's you know, cultures, different based in cultures for us. The times, the eras that we were born in, or the times we were born. So, but no, I think open mindedness really is huge, or being open minded, not shutting anything out or being a dick and just being like, nope, I'm not going to, even try to tell you about it either because this isn't something we should be talking about. Um, It can be very difficult. I agree. It scares me sometimes when I think about it, and my children are approaching that age where they're going to start asking about those things, um, about homosexuality or um, some puberty, right? That's
Oh
always
yeah.
a uncomfortable conversation, but it's still a necessary conversation that needs to happen. Um, you know, overall, it doesn't matter when it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And we have to be open minded to it, and knowing that our children have to learn about it at some point. So they're not, in the dark. Um, shame for, shame on some people that think otherwise and close minded. It's like, no, it's going to happen, folks. You may not want to have that conversation. You may, brush it off to the side or beat around the bush, but they're still going to learn about it in school. So, um, my number one here. You ready?
Yeah.
How to be a parent.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the one thing. Um, it,
Literally the one thing.
you don't think about it as a child, right? But as you start getting older, you have this plan, or you want to have children someday. You start looking back at how your parents raised you, and you start using their examples, how they raised you, to raise your own children, right? But yet you still try to make it better because I've said this in episodes in the past. We raise our children to be better than us.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, my father was raising me to be better than him, or wanted me to, be better off, or in that, aspect, right? Trying to do the same thing for my children. So he has taught me. He may not have been like, okay, this is how you do this, this, and this, but he has started giving me that opportunity. He has started pointing me in directions, or giving me a sense of direction of how maybe I could approach something. You can never make a hand or a guidebook or a rule book of how to raise a child. Oh, well, if they start doing this, you can't go. Here's, when a child starts being disrespectful, here's what you do to make sure they respect you, right? Or provide that right level of respect. There's no black and white rule for that, or standard rule,
Right.
um, or anything of that nature. But they, you know, even mothers out there, they help you develop a sense of parenting and how to maybe approach some things. And they will even be more than happy to, well, at least I know my parents were more than happy to help me along the way when I first became a parent, to be there for me, be a supporting parent, be a supporting god or grandparent too. So
Yeah.
that's why it's my number one, is because without a parent, I don't think I could truly be the parent I am right now. And I mean, I'm still evolving as a parent. I'm still developing, how I go about parenting, but I had to have a baseline, and they provided me with some sort of baseline.
That's good. Yeah. No, it's definitely a rock solid number one.
Yeah. Thought about it, and it just made a
I
whole lot of sense at the time.
I I like to improve on a lot of the ways that my father raised me, and it wouldn't be a black and white situation either. You're comparing apples to oranges with my fatherhood and his fatherhood because of the situation.
As in, like, a divorced parent. Just had to clarify. I just wanted to
Yep.
clarify because I know
Yep.
it makes sense, but you still had a baseline from him.
Yes.
You had some sort of starting point of how to start being a parent, even though yes, you, like you said, it's an apples to orange situation. You're married right now. He was divorced, or he divorced when you were young, so you did kind of grow up in a two family situation where your daughters are in one single family. But I get it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I have that nice happy single family still as well versus two families. But all in all, I mean, that is not the big thing. The big picture, we've had that big picture before, in previous episodes. But I think being a parent, or how to be a parent, is really crucial. Getting that guideline or getting that baseline for yourself, and you may be thankful for it. I just have a higher appreciation for it, because without them I wouldn't know what to do.
Right.
I mean, granted, you don't know what necessarily to do as a parent anyways most of the time, because you're working it out with your first child, even with your second child, because the environment changes when you go from one to two. But you learn along the way, and you still had some sort of ground based on how you were raised. So, um, with that being said, folks, there are no jokes tonight, so I'm sorry to let you down. Um, Shame on
Good.
me
I
for
can't
having
laugh
no dad.
anyway. I'm still sick.
Yeah, no, I don't have any jokes tonight. It's another ranking episode, so I don't think those will usually follow it. We don't really follow with jokes all too often on the ranking episodes, anyways. Um, but tell us what you think about your. I would love to hear from you folks that are out there, whether it be on TikTok. Oh, by the way, thank you for their comment. Somebody had commented on TikTok the other day, or in one of my episodes, or one of the clips. You know, thanks for your negativity, but good luck. I'm glad you feel safe to share that, but it's not going to deter me, or it's not going to deter us. I'm glad you feel safe to share behind the internet, or behind a computer screen or phone or whatever you're behind, to say proof that not everybody should be podcasters. So that's all I'm going to say. Thanks for being comfortable sharing that, but it's not going to deter us from doing what we want to do. So good luck. But we're going to continue doing this, and everybody, you know how to hit us up. TikTok, you can message us. Facebook, listen to us on Google, Apple Podcast, Spotify, um, YouTube. So we will see you next time. Enjoy.